So if your child has ADHD and they are struggling to get to school consistently, it's tempting to fall into the trap of thinking that they may just be lazy or oppositional. But I'm here to tell you today that this kind of behavior starts much earlier in life, and the relationship between the school and the child becomes adversarial with a lot of kids with ADHD early on in their school career. We're going to talk today in this video about that connection of ADHD and attendance. And my name is Ira Hayes, and I specialize in treating anxiety and in particularly the intersectionality between mental health and education. I'm here today to talk to you about how ADHD becomes a quiet contributor to school attendance concerns, starting early on in education. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how this becomes an issue and then some strategies to reduce those concerns, both from school and the home perspective. So I think a lot of kids' ADHD behavior, especially in those younger grades, is misunderstood. A lot of times, things like difficulty with task initiation or emotional regulation, or even just deficits in executive functioning can really create a problem with them connecting in the classroom. It often results in some disciplinary action, especially if teachers and faculty and maybe even families and the kid don't understand what's going on, or they haven't yet been diagnosed with ADHD. Very frequently in the formative years at kindergarten, first, second, third grade, when a kid still is very excited about going to school and seeing friends, particularly in that first week or two of school, they will come in and they'll have a hard time transitioning from the summer routine back in school. And then that routine creates some adversarial relationship with the teacher. The teacher's trying to redirect the student to have this more expected behavior, and the student struggling to meet that expectations because of their symptoms of ADHD. When a student in that younger formative years feels like they're always getting in trouble, it really creates a lot of anxiety and stress around attending school and around being present in the classroom. This often creates a strong adversarial relationship between the child and the school. And this goes deeper than just being bored at school, but the child tends to present with significant avoidance related to the stress of going to school and feeling constantly criticized and redirected. They start feeling a sense of everything I do is wrong, struggling to do anything right. And this is particularly difficult if they haven't been diagnosed yet. So for a lot of kids, when every school day feels like a battle, skipping school seems like a reasonable thing for them to do. If they don't want to experience this adversarial relationship, and if the grownups around them don't understand that their behavior is not out of defiance, but out of symptoms that are maybe outside of their control, or they have limited control over without learning significant new skills, they feel as though if I can't meet the expectation, it's much easier for me to avoid. And that's a natural reaction for anyone to have in a situation where they're receiving a lot of criticism. Once we see kids falling into this cycle where they're in the idea of, I want to avoid this uncomfortable situation where I have this adversarial relationship with school, it then becomes, we miss a few days of school because of this concern, and we get really comfortable at home, and that reinforces, hey, stay home and be comfortable. It also means that missing work will pile up. And if the kid has any concerns about academic performance, certainly this will be a time where they start to struggle. I want to make up this work. How do I not look foolish if I'm in school? This leads us to a combination of it's not just a school-based behavior problem that exhibits through ADHD, but then it becomes more of an emotional concern where we start seeing anxiety and we start seeing a child's ego build, and we start seeing depression because they start internalizing a lot of those negative emotions that are being projected on them. So what can we do to protect these kids and change this cycle around? How do we have an impact on not just our own child, but the children that we treat in our practice or the kids that we work with at a school? I think the most important thing is to focus on the fact that these kids have particular needs related to their ADHD symptoms, and they're not just being defiant and they're not just being oppositional. The needs of these students differ a little bit from the needs of the students that are neurotypical. So if you're a school-based personnel, I think one of the biggest things you could do with a child with ADHD is start working on the relationship. Make sure that if you are giving correction or prompting, that it's done in a way that's really helpful for the kid without a lot of stigmatizing language and without a lot of frustration and anger. Focus on building the relationship and strengthening the bond between that student and yourself, which I know can be difficult at times, but it can be so powerful and meaningful, particularly for that kid's entire development, not just through elementary school, but through middle school and high school as well. One of the ways that we can change the way we see the problem and therefore interact in a healthier way with the kids is recognizing that the behavior is not oppositional and that it's a kind of a presentation of an unmet need at that time. Does a child need movement breaks? Do they need a quieter space to work? There's several combinations that can be added to a student's 504 IEP that will be helpful with a child who has ADHD and who's struggling within the classroom. I think it's also really important to have open conversations with the parents at home, and to have open communication with the child and the parent and talk about expectations, talk about different ways that they can be met, both at home and in school, and talk about how to support that child in a very warm and nurturing way. We know from the work of Angela Duckworth that for parents and for school teachers, having a high expectation for a child with ADHD is fine, but we have to make equal parts warm. Additionally, one of the things I think schools and families can collaborate on is having a short exposure period before school starts. So what I would typically do is have kids start sitting and attending to classwork or fun stuff at home at the kitchen table for 20 or 30 minutes before school starts. And then slowly wean them off the fun stuff so that it's more concentration based and it's putting a demand on the student that's going to be similar to the one at school. This is going to do two things. One, it's going to help this kid build some distress tolerance in that time. So you might have them start with 20 minutes and by the time they get to school, they're able to sit for 40 minutes, right? More importantly, what I think it does is for the kid's mind, it allows them to understand that, hey, even when I'm sitting and trying to attend at home, it's a bit uncomfortable for me. So they start recognizing that this is a symptom of something that I struggle with, not necessarily something about school that I dislike. So that student will start to think, well, okay, this is something that I need help with and I need to grow and work on, not just avoid at school, but it will follow me throughout my life in different situations. This can really help reduce the amount of adversarial relationship when the school is doing what they're supposed to be doing and connecting with the child still might tend to think this is really uncomfortable. But if they recognize that discomfort is caused by sitting and not necessarily school, it'll help them in the long run. ADHD is very misunderstood, especially how it affects school attendance. But when we shift from a punishment method to a collaborative method, we're able to reverse some of the negative effects that ADHD may have on a child's school attendance. If you want further information about ADHD, next week's video that will drop on Monday will be about ADHD and how sometimes we see when we treat a child's anxiety, we might even see their ADHD symptoms get worse. So in next week's video, we're going to talk about why that happens and what to do about it. If you found this video helpful, please leave a comment. I love to hear your thoughts on ADHD and school attendance. If you want to learn more about school attendance concerns related to avoidance and refusal and school phobia, please subscribe to the channel. And it should be making a recommendation right around here for you to watch a video about the difference between school refusal, school avoidance, and school phobia. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.